candidates, here's your second question. Do you think there needs to be more cooperation between the City of Kings Mountain and Cleveland County government? If so, what would you do to strengthen that relationship and foster more cooperation? You have 90 seconds to answer, and Mr. Rhodes, you can begin.
Yes, I do feel that we need to cooperate more with folks on the other side of the creek. It's been kind of difficult at times. There's a new county manager now, and the city manager has spoken to him about one issue that we're working with, and they seem to be wanting to cooperate in that area. With all the development in the ETJ and outside the county that's occurring, it's imperative that we develop it. I believe that we can have a sit-down, a joint session together, and let the county manager and the city manager get together first and develop kind of a portfolio based on the questions that we have as city councilmen and as the commissioners would have for us. Thank you.
Yes, I think it would be good to have a good relationship with the county for 911 operations. We need a centralized emergency communications office so our response time is a little bit quicker, so our first responders can get out quicker on fires, EMS, police officers. And maybe we can work together on an economic development. If the city and county could work together on some shell buildings. I believe Shelby is working with Cleveland County currently, and I think they've sold all their shell buildings to manufacturers. So if we could cooperate with the county, get some shell buildings, bring some manufacturers here into town, bring us some jobs.
I love this question because working together is synergy, which I shared before. I won't share the equation. I'm sure you get it. But synergy is key, and I love this. Why would we not work with? It's shocking to me, but we're in a community that's stagnant. And, you know, I sit up here with many people who are on council, and I don't think they have admitted yet how stagnant the city is. We're not moving forward. I love that we have a group called KM Forward, and I know they have a great heart to move things forward, and I love the ideas. But if we're not working together with anyone who's close to us, whether it be the county, whether it be the state, whether it be our local residents, nothing's going to move forward at all. So working together, it's honestly the only way for us to get things done.
It's kind of a two-edged sword. Over the last 12 years I've been in this role. I've been in dozens of economic development meetings and ribbon cuttings with corporate executives from out of state, even out of the country. One thing here again and again and again is they are so impressed with how our city, our county, our school system, our community college, Gardner-Webb, the hospital, the State Economic Development Commission, Department of Commerce, we work together very well up and down that line, vertically and horizontally, according to these executives from outside the area. And that is often a reason why they choose to relocate here. So it's a huge asset to have that level of interjurisdictional cooperation. However, the other side of the sword is every one of those officials gets elected to represent their constituents. So it's kind of like a farming family. During the day, the boys are out in the field working with dad to get everything done. But at the dinner table, there's a competition for the drumsticks. So that's the way it is. We have to work together, but we also have to recognize that the people we're working with may have a different agenda sometimes. And how do you balance that? So I like to say, I sleep with one eye open.
Most definitely, we need to work together with our county elected officials, our county government, with the other municipalities and with the school system. This is something that is so important to me. I tend to consider myself a bridge builder. I like to get along with people. I don't like to argue, to fuss. I like to build bridges. I've spent a lot of my career working in Shelby and getting to know people in Shelby, Shelby City government, and the Cleveland County government. In fact, I have a meeting with the new county manager next week, not to discuss city business. I've talked with Dr. Fisher, superintendent of our school system, just this morning about other issues. I feel like it's important for us to be able to communicate with these folks, for them to know what our plans are, what our ideas are, so that we can know what their plans are and their ideas, and so we can work together to build stronger, to build better, to just work together. So yes, I most definitely think it's important for us to have those relationships.
Well, I too think that it's a great thing to work, with the county. And, I've been around a long time. And, in our situation, our city runs its own senior center and library, which is basically county functions in most other counties. And we get very little assistance from Cleveland County. So I hope that that sort of changes. We are a community on the move. It is really progressing very, very quickly. And when I said something about being here for a long time, it has been stagnant. But I tell you what, now we have got to look and see what we want as a community moving into our community. And that's why I think the planned urban development with the Dixon Ridge is so important. Because we want to get it developed the way we want it to be, and not the way that the sprawl will face us and bowl us over like it's happened in Huntersville and Lawrenceville and Cornelius. There are over 30,000 people there. We have to make sure we plan for that. But I do want to work with the county, and I tell you, this is where Cleveland County will grow. And this is the way that we can lift the boat for everybody in Cleveland County, because we got location, location, and location.
There's two words: ego and money. As a police officer, I work for the city of Shelby. And there always seems to be a competition between the city and the county. But the problem is when people don't get along. My chief has always talked about having relationships, build relationships. You got to sit down and talk, bring people to the table. Because people have egos, and people have money. Money makes the world go around, but at what cost? At what cost to us? So in order for the city and county to work together, you actually need to sit down and talk. Some people want to fight. Most of us are married. So you got hiccups every now and then, but you work through it. And you try to understand what's best for everybody. The county wants what's best for them. We as a city, we want what's best for us. But at the same time, we still have to come together, because this is our community. And if we don't come together, we'll just fall apart. So money and ego has to be set aside and do what's best for us. Because our government, they don't care. It seems like they just don't care about us. They care about themselves. It's like, I just want somebody to do what's right and do what's best for us. Thank you.
Kings Mountain has a 2-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction, commonly known as an ETJ. They only have that in Cleveland County and 1 mile in Gaston County. But this means that all building and zoning permits must be obtained from the city of Kings Mountain instead of Cleveland County. Because of this, people who reside in the ETJ have no right to vote to elect Kings Mountain City Council or mayor, those who control their land use. In light of this, and recognizing that Cleveland County has now for more than 20 years had a county-wide zoning ordinance, should Kings Mountain reduce or eliminate its 2-mile ETJ in Cleveland County? Why or why not? Begin with Woody Edwards.
I believe we should keep it momentarily because of the amount of growth that we're looking to get: affordable homes, a casino, Mayoral, all the jobs and the people moving into town. I just feel like That's something the city needs to help regulate development and plan for infrastructure of utilities and future growth. If expansion is needed, absorption of the ETJ may be required in some areas. Just see how it goes from there.
I think about this from two perspectives, but the one that keeps kind of gnawing at me internally is from the perspective of the person who lives in the ETJ. And that is that the decisions that City Council makes affects the people who live in the ETJ. In my opinion, we should absolutely be including them in the process. If what we do affects them, they should have the right to vote on the things that affect their lives, their neighborhoods, their streets, their families, their schools, their ability to get to school. They should have that right, and yes, I believe they should be ultimately included.
We've already presented parts of the ETJ in Mid-Pines. We'll probably do more of that. The ETJ members have 4 of 11 seats on the planning board, so when I talk to members of the ETJ, the people who live there, the discussion goes something like this. You currently live at most 4 miles from City Hall, but you're either 12 and a half miles to Cleveland County's county seat or 14 miles from the Gaston County seat. And I made a map for people of where the city council members live, where the ETJ is, and where the county commissioners live in both counties. And that was a visual to help people evaluate, do they have more influence over the elected officials in Kings Mountain and who gets elected and who they tell their friends to vote for or not vote for, because we all go to the same schools, we go to the same churches, we shop in the same grocery stores here around Kings Mountain. The other thing I point out to people is the Gaston County seat and the Shelby County seat are highly developed, and there's sort of an undeveloped sea, and then there's a little island of development where we are. So we're very much an island community. I've talked with Gaston County commissioners and the manager and the Cleveland County manager about replacing the ETJ with interlocal agreements. It goes back to economic development. When we can walk in and offer zoning, planning codes, electric, gas, water, utilities, stormwater, and fiber, we stand out at the top of the stack when companies are looking at other places to move to, and it helps us with economic development. Thank you.
ETJ is one of those things that I have always, that's puzzled me. Okay, I think of the folks who live in the ETJ sort of being like the American colonies were in the beginning. And the reason why we fought the Revolutionary War was taxation without representation. I know that they're not being taxed at the same level that those of us in the city limits are, but they also don't get to vote, and they don't get all the resources that we get. I never knew that I knew so many people who lived in the ETJ until I started running, and they would say, I'd really like to vote for you, but I can't. A lot of folks around there, I'm sure there were really good reasons why it was established in the beginning, but I do think that it's something that needs to be looked at and evaluated, and it may not be the right thing for our community at this time or going forward.
Well, I kind of was at the center of the 2 mile ETJ because I got the local bill passed back in between 91 and 99. I can't really remember the date of that. But little did I know how important it was going to be. And ETJs were basically established for when you would go and annex an area that it would already be done and already be zoned in the correct fashion so it would be added into the city. Since the state took away the annexation option for us, it's probably not as useful as it used to be. But I want to tell you, without the 2 mile ETJ, we couldn't have put an overlay district over the entertainment district where the casino is. So we put an overlay district there that eliminated sweepstakes, pawn shops, bars, bingo parlors, or whatever. So it protects our community and how we want it to grow. If you look at a map today, you will see a bunch of people that have, because of our utilities and how great it is, a one-stop shop. you'll see that a lot of satellite annexations are in that 2-mile ETJ, and it's just about filled in now. So I think it was very important, and little did I know that it was going to be that important until the casino came.
Four words: assume nothing, question everything. Lots of times things are voted on, and sometimes people don't ask why. I mean, things get passed, a bill gets passed, and people don't ask why. I mean, if I'm a part of something, if it's going to affect me, I think I should have a right to vote. If it affects me, if it affects you, you should ask why. Don't just sit back, because bills are passed all the time. But if you don't have a voice, if you're not allowed to speak up, that's only going to hurt you. But I think they should be able to vote.
Although they have, pardon me, although they have no vote, they do have representation. Being the last one, you're going to hear some redundancy a little bit, but they do have representatives on the Planning and Zoning Committee. I know personally that I've never looked at a zoning issue from a person that lives in the ETJ any differently than a citizen of the city of Kings Mountain. I think we're all the same, and I'm trying to do the best for our entire area. The few people that have ever commented to me about the ETJ, quite frankly, have said, we kind of like it because we have your voice. You can come and talk to me if they have an issue. There is an option for these folks if they desire. They could have annexation. If a group wants to be annexed in, and then the city would be required, if we annex them, to provide additional services. So, thank you.
Should the city of Kings Mountain advertise bids on local projects, even if the law does not require it? And do you think the bid results should be publicized? In addition, should qualified local contractors always be allowed to bid on projects?
I love that question as well, because I think one of the issues in City Hall is transparency. I believe that there are things that happen that we don't know until they've happened, and then how do we find out? We kind of find out in a rumor mill sort of way. We start getting answers, hey, this person did that, or this person did that, and then we don't really know, well, what's the truth there? I think the easy solution there is transparency, 100%. As far as the bidding process, I don't think anyone should be excluded from the bidding process at all. I do believe there have been many areas where we just honestly ignore the bidding process completely, and then the bid goes to somebody who knows somebody or somebody who's sitting very close to city council. And honestly, those days have to end, because if they don't, this community will not grow.
Well, that's kind of a no-brainer, sure. There's procurement rules in the state law, and there's different thresholds. City council deals with bids of procurement above certain thresholds, and the results of the bids are published in the agenda packets, which are published online. And then city council has to make a public vote in the selection of whoever the bidder is going to be, and there's a scoring process. Again, all of that's in the agenda packets. That's public. I think this question is probably geared more towards the procurements and bids that would fall below those thresholds, that would run through a staff process, never coming to council, so they'd never be on an agenda packet. Well, sure. Why can't those be published? There's no reason they couldn't be. That sounds like a great idea.
I would say yes. I think most of you know that I served on the Board of Education, and our bids were always public. And as Mr. Miller said, when the board, or in this case when council makes the vote, then they're published and they're public record. But there really does not seem to me to be a reason why those bids should not be public.
Well, I certainly do believe that you should get bids, and everyone should be available to submit a bid. And I gotta tell you, I signed most of the contracts that come through the city, and they do a remarkably good job of in purchasing, about getting those bids and making sure that our money is spent in a great in a great fashion. And that doesn't necessarily mean sometimes that they're the lowest bid, but it's the ones that we feel like that we're more confident in making sure they complete the task. But I don't know of anything anybody's ever been excluded in the bidding process for the city of Kings Mountain, because I ask those questions when I get ready to do, sign those contracts.
One thing we don't need is more big government. We don't need somebody trying to tell us what to do. But for bids, that's something that we should know about. Transparency, be open, but I don't want somebody trying to tell me what to do. Or somebody has a friend down the road, it's like, hey, you can do it this way, you can do it that way, but no. Be open, do what's best, put Kings Mountain first. Thank you.
Like one person's already said, in all of the large bids, like a fire engine, a police car, or something like that, we get the bids, and they're in our bid package, and this is available when we talk about transparency. All of this information is on the city website, and you can see the same package that I see as a city councilman, completely, with all the verbiage, with all the background that you can read, since the city manager has had meetings monthly, you can go and talk to him if you have a question. He's very open to answer any questions. But I think that the bid process, yes, if we're not bidding out the smaller projects that could help local businesses, we ought to be doing it.
I believe we should have complete transparency on all bids. And I believe anyone with the right license and insurance should be able to put a bid in. Thank you.
Well, I had the zoning ETJ question, now I got the tax question. This year, the city of Kings Mountain raised its property tax rate 5 cents, or about 11%, I think. Do you believe that was necessary? If so, why? If not, why not? And if you are elected in November, under what conditions would you vote for future property tax increases in the city of Kings Mountain? This answer begins with Keith Miller.
Thank you. No, it's never necessary. It's a choice people make. You could always put off a purchase. You could always, make something last a little longer or go without. So, necessary? No. Prudent and wise? I think so. I think it was about 2006 when I first voted no on a budget for a similar reason. At that time, I felt we were redistributing and transferring too much money from the electric fund to the general fund. It's only about 80% of the people in the city are electric customers, so when we take money, we're having 80% of the people pay for stuff that everybody gets to use. So it took 17 years, but we're addressing that now. About 5 years ago, we stopped transferring from the gas fund to the general fund. We've reduced the transfers from the electric fund every year for the last several years. We're about 1 year away from getting down to about $1 million and being where the LGC, the North Carolina Treasurer's Office, would like to have us. Essentially, it boils down to the tax increase was $1 million. 70% of the taxes are paid for by business property. That means $300,000 came. $300,000 came from residents. There's about 3,000 household units. So it was roughly $100 a year that was passed on to the residential taxpayers. There's not an appetite in the city to reduce some of the quality of life programs we have, like aging, library, etc. We also want to be a modern professional city, so we got to pay modern professional wages, and we got to have modern professional equipment, and it just costs money to fund properly.
No one likes to have taxes increased. I don't know anyone that whether it's sales tax, our property tax, our income tax, whatever that tax is, no one wants to have a tax increase. I think one of the more important questions, the increases happened, it's there, we're paying it. I think one of the more important questions is, are we getting what we should be getting from that tax increase? Are we getting the services that have been promised to us? Are we getting the things that we need? Prices have gone up everywhere, so prices have been increased for the city. They're having to pay more for the services that they provide. But I think it's important for us to know where that tax money is being used, and is it being used appropriately, and are we getting what we have asked for or what we need?
You know, sometimes you got to learn how to win and how to lose. And I was very much against going up on taxes, because the fact I thought we really kind of went into a spending frenzy. I can explain that a little more in detail. It's going to be a little more than 90 seconds to do it. But I was very much against that, and it's really because our area is so blessed to be able to have the electric and the gas, to be able to subsidize the general fund. We have been sort of discriminated against with the LGC because they lump us in with a municipal power agency that has so much debt that they want them to reduce their transfers to 5%. We don't have that. We buy power at wholesale and resell it and be able to use that money. It's like saying that you got a side job of delivering pizzas, but don't ever use that money. Don't ever use that profit you make on that side business to run your household. So I think it's very important for us to have that. And if elected again, hopefully in this next session, there's another city in North Carolina that has gotten a local bill that allows them to transfer as much money as they want to out of those utility bills, utility funds. Utility funds, as long as they keep a good reserve in their balance and they're within 10% of the rates. So I can elaborate on that later on. Thank you.
There are 7 people on the city council. I believe in diversity. You got a lawyer, activist, entrepreneur. I'm a police officer. We bring a lot of different things to the table. Because if everybody was just one thing, you would only have, if we were all lawyers, that's what we would see Kings Mountain from. But Kings Mountain is separated into 5 wards. And so with this, every ward is represented a certain way. This past weekend I went door to door, and I actually asked that question about taxes, and this is what I was told. A monkey can raise taxes. We ought to focus on saving money and providing great resources and great services. So he said that to me again. He said, a monkey can raise taxes. Anybody can raise taxes, but can we actually save money? Can we stop spending money? Can we do the right things for the right people? But the way to do that is to be in contact with the citizens, to see what the citizens want, see what the citizens need, to see what Kings Mountain needs. And so what we bring to the table is diversity. And I certainly hope that we all go door to door and speak to people in our wards and our neighborhoods, because we should be putting Kings Mountain residents first.
How many of you have leaves? How many of you have leaves? Raise your hand. Come on, folks, show me. We needed 2 leaf trucks. They're not inexpensive. If your house caught a fire, would you want a 22-year-old fire engine that the fire people say, we're having a hard time with parts. The ladder may not work. Do you want your house to be burnt down? Do I see any hands? The 5% tax increase, and I don't like to use the word I because I think it's a team effort here, but I made the recommendation that it goes completely for capital. In other words, you're going to be able to touch the things that this tax increase went for. $3.2 million for 2 fire engines. We had to pay for them. We had to show that we could pay for them when we increased the tax, even though the fire engine won't be here for another 15 to 20 months. We couldn't delay the tax increase and kind of spread it out. So I didn't necessarily, and I have to pay the tax as well. So I don't like it either. But it's going for capital expenditures, And I think it was well worth the price that each of us has to pay to update our equipment to keep us going. Thank you.
I believe with the future growth we will be seeing, I don't think there will be a need for another tax increase anytime soon. However, the one we just had passed, I believe we needed it for resources, infrastructure, apparatuses, equipment. Thank you.
Keith Miller talked about an issue that's been going on for 12 years, he says. And really that's a mismanagement of funds. And the truth is, I was in a council meeting 2 months ago, and in that meeting, we were still taking money from one fund and putting it into another fund. And as far as I'm concerned, if we keep doing this shell game with the money, we're going to have no choice for years and years to come but to raise taxes. To lower taxes, and I don't believe we're in that place, by the way. Would it be a dream for me to come before you and say, hey, lower taxes? Absolutely, it's what I stand for. That comes with responsibility, and again, that word transparency. Where is the money really going? I got an electric bill that's going up $190 in this year. So how did that happen? And taxes are happening. If I were your mayor, there would be no other choice. Yes, we do have to raise taxes at this time. But it would be my goal to make sure that there's responsibility with the way that we handle money from all of these accounts. Quit using this account for this account. Use them for what they're given for. And let's be responsible and let's hold ourselves accountable. Thank you.
Should public recreation in Kings Mountain be a higher priority? If elected, what would you recommend the city do to address this opportunity?
Is that right?
Sure, I'll repeat it. Should public recreation in Kings Mountain be a higher priority? If elected, what would you recommend the city do to address this opportunity? And Sharon Miller will begin.
Almost lost track. Yes, most definitely. I think that public recreation needs to be a high priority for the city. Sometimes it's not until you really stop and start looking around that you realize what you have and what you don't have. During this time, I've done a lot of just driving around the city of Kings Mountain. We don't have a lot of parks. When our daughters were younger, there was one park that I knew of that we could go to that has shifted now and to the other side of the YMCA. But that was all we had. And then the new park was built beside the Y, but it's not in good shape now. It needs to be renovated. There's not a whole lot of green space around. There's not a whole lot of we've got a wonderful Patriots Park, and we have a wonderful senior center that provides programs. But yes, the city definitely needs to do more for everyone, not just the children, not just the middle-aged folks, but our older folks, whatever their needs. We need to be more involved with the parks, with recreation, whatever that is, what it looks like to those around us.
Well, I'm a big supporter of the YMCA. I really think they have done a fabulous job, and for all of us that have lived here all our lives, the city of Kings Mountain would I guess, organize the Little League Baseball, but when it came to events and exercise and programs inside the building, we fell short. It would only be like one exercise course. Not to mention the after-school thing they do, and they take care of 80 kids. Yes, we can do more parks. Very, very proud of what we did at Patriots Park. And that was pretty well constructed by city workers that did it on top of what they do normally, in their everyday jobs. So very, very proud of what they've done. We've got a great city staff, and I do believe that we need to have some more open spaces. The developments that we're looking at, they're going to have open spaces for recreation as well, so that's part of it. But I really do believe that it's important for us to continue to look at other ways where we can have the amenities. One thing I will mention real quick, I was talking to the tourism and hotel chairman in Charlotte, and he said that everybody loves to come to Kings Mountain for the trails, so they don't have to go all the way to the Blue Ridge Parkway. So the hiking and the biking and getting into nature is a very important part of what we can give.
I have two daughters, and so when I want to take them somewhere, usually I got to take them out of Kings Mountain, because my daughter right here, Sloan, I've taken her to so many trampoline parks, jumpy parks, I mean, all sorts of stuff. But there's really nothing here in Kings Mountain. And so I've spoken to the city manager. He talked about parks, recreation, reinvesting into Kings Mountain. I've gone door to door. They talked about pickleball, having some sort of parks. But any time there's about 50 to 100 acres, what happens? Mega neighborhoods get built. Why aren't they building parks for Kings Mountain residents? Money. We should be taking care of our own. So they asked about, should the parks and recreation be a high priority? It should be up there, I believe, because if not, I'm taking my daughters counties over, spending money over there. It'd be nice to have people come here, spend money. Because we don't need all these mega neighborhoods all the time. Because there's a lot of families here in Kings Mountain, and this is one fabulous town. This is a great town to raise a family in. And if we can't do that, Kings Mountain residents come first.
We have a recreation committee that has worked at this project for a little bit. We've had a little bit of success. We've taken a field at the intermediate school, and if you know where the new power station's going up, we did a little Jimmy Hall with the school system, and we got that property to put our station on, and we lit up the field at the intermediate field, at the intermediate school. We've got with the elite, Marcus is sitting back here, and the Optimist Club, because they had limited facilities for the kids that they work with, which is a lot of young people that they work with, and that gave them a lighted field that they didn't have. We've talked to the schools about co-oping and using the fields and the areas where the school has for our parks. If you start looking downtown, we're built up. Where are you going to have a park? I mean, give us an example. Outside of Waterson, which is a great area, there's limited space because we're built up in the downtown. You're going to have to go outside the area a little bit. And so we're working on it, but it's just a slow process. And we do have a consultant now coming in, and they're going to look at it, evaluate all we have, give us some suggestions. And I look forward to hearing their results.
There's definitely a need for more parks and activities for our youth. Maybe a dog park too for people. Skate ring, bowling alley, swimming pool, public swimming pool. So I think we need to find a place to put some of those things. Give more back to our youth so when they get out of school or while they're on summer break, they can have somewhere to go. Thank you.
There's a man in the Bible, his name is David. He found himself pretty close to Saul while Saul decided to take a bathroom break, and David could have taken that man out right there, but he, instead, because he had honor, he didn't do him in. He just cut a little piece and said, hey, I'll show this to him at the right time. That would save David's life, and it did. I believe that's the way that we have to treat the members of council and the present mayor as things move forward in the city, and that is with honor. So you're probably saying, where is this man going? We have a park, it's named after a mayor, and that park looks terrible. I think that is a dishonor to Mayor Rick Mumford, yeah, thank you. What? Murphy, thank you. I couldn't see because the sign is so battered there that I could not read the name. But when you go there, you'll see. But I think it's a dishonor. Mr. Rhodes was talking about where do we put the park? Let's just fix that one we have because it was a fantastic park when it was built. There was a grant given last year to many other towns nearby. Mount Holly picked up a grant for more than $500,000. Bessemer City built themselves a park. It was a grant that we actually discussed with some council members. There's no reason why we, the city of Kings Mountain, should miss grants of this nature. Thank you.
Waiting on the timer. Yeah, it's part of the overall context. The developers can tell you that when people are buying houses these days, they don't just buy it because of the house. It's looking at the quality of the place where they're going to make a life, placemaking. And recreation parks, it just fits in with that. Cultural amenities, cultural enhancements. It's all part of the economic development and development picture. Where we're at, it's also related to several other things. One of the other things I started talking about in 2006 was capital budget. It took a few years before we got capital items written into the operational budget, so that now if you read it, every department has got their capital plan in there, and we're working towards having a free, separately standing capital budget. That's where this comes into play, because if you're going to spend X $100,000 on recreation, what's the plan? The current operational budget has $30,000 in it for hiring a consultant to develop a Parks and Recs plan. City manager hopes to get that bid out this fall so that we can have professionals who do this for a living and who are aware of the current trends throughout the Carolinas and the country tell us, based on our community, and they'll do community surveys and get community input, and we'll wind up with a plan, and then that's one of the things this capital budget can be used for, is funding the build-out of that plan over time. So it's in the works, it'll be a public process, everybody will get to participate sometime soon.
This will be our final question. Where should the city of Kings Mountain do the next phase of the streetscape? What would you recommend doing differently for the next phase? Again, you have up to 90 seconds, and we begin with Scott Nosser.
All right. I really do believe, and this has already really been formalized, that we will start on Railroad Avenue. The reason being is that Crave has gotten some building permits and they're ready to get started. And it would be really great to have the construction at the same time they're doing theirs, rather than waiting until they finish and then we tear the streets up when they got a brand new business to open. So I think it's going to be very important. I think Kings Mountain Forward has met. They looked at it and decided they want to have a one-way street through there to increase the parking. Parking's a problem there. And I'm going to try to preach a reverse angle parking. So you can be on the lookout for that. But anyway, that's a hard sell. But I think that's important to do that on Railroad Avenue. I don't anticipate it being probably a little easier to do than Mountain Street, because Mountain Street has so much infrastructure in it. It had data lines and electric underground and all that, and Railroad Avenue is probably a little less than that. So let's cross our fingers that we don't really get a hold of anything down there that it's unforeseen, and that we get that done and make it look as beautiful as Mountain Street looks.
Talking about streetscape, I just want to talk about, I guess, our downtown. Because I do believe in our downtown. I believe we need to promote our local businesses downtown. There are two things that I look forward to trying to start as a short-term goal is focusing on a local business, local economy. Because we actually had one business, one building get condemned, and then 2 businesses went out. So talking about streetscape, shouldn't we be focusing on our local businesses? And then just not our local businesses for our short term. What about our long term? We've got the bypass coming through, allegedly, around for Shelby. And so we're going to have 4 exits that we can use our businesses, try to entice, I guess the word is try to steal from Shelby. Try to steal those businesses, bring them here, and say, hey, this is going to be your last place to stop before you go around the bypass of Shelby. You can have shops. You can even start some housing out there. Promoting local businesses. But you got short-term and you got long-term. So that's what I'm looking at, just not streetscape. I'm trying to look further down the road. Thank you.
Well, the cat's already out of the bag. Railroad Avenue is where we're going to strive to complete next year. I am really thankful, and some may not believe that I wanted this, but I'm very thankful that we've got the downtown back down into Forward KM. It was the Mountaineer Partnership, and why the city ever took it back over, I have no idea. It was a bad move then, and it would be a bad move now. With Forward KM, they can tell us what we need to be doing. They're the stakeholders. I still think that we have some situations that just are going to make it difficult for our downtown to prosper because of our demographics. I mean, you get a nice upscale craft shop or a coffee shop. We got people that are working 40 hours a week just to try to make a rent payment. And until we change those demographics, it's going to be very difficult for us to have those things. People will say, well, why don't we be like Black Mountain? Look at the demographics of Black Mountain. And then when you see all the corporations that we have coming here, and none of those people live here. So their capital doesn't stay here. And that's a big issue. So as we move forward, we just need to increase. If we get our demographics up, the businesses will come. I believe that. Thank you.
I think we need to just stay on track on hitting the target dates on streetscape and getting it done as soon as possible, so we're not impacting these businesses from customers going in, so they can stay open. And get back to finishing all of Kings Mountain, the streetscape.
I think you're going to be able to tell that I wear my faith on my sleeve. I'm not afraid or ashamed to proclaim that Jesus is my Lord and Savior. That is the most important thing in my life. So what does that have to do with streetscape? Everything. The book that I read, called the Bible, says, without vision, my people perish. What I don't love about the Kings Mountain planning with streetscape is that I think that we're piecemealing it. I think we pick an area, we make it look great. I think they did a terrific job. Problem is, now we're talking about, okay, the next area is going to be railroad. I do not believe that we have planned for what the end looks like. I've been a marketing director in media. I've worked for CBS Radio. I've worked for Clear Channel, iHeart, Odyssey, Entercom, all of them. And God has taken me to the top of the mountain in media. My background has always been, I know what the end is going to look like, therefore I can start at the beginning, and I know where we should be in the middle. For us to even have a conversation where we're saying, hey, what should we do next? Why? Because we can do something next? That's not how we plan things that are going to prosper. Our mayor brought up Dixon Ridge, and just because he talks about it the way he does, doesn't mean that that's really how it's going to be. And that is not me saying he's not being truthful. That's me saying that I don't believe that the vision for Dixon Ridge even is truly laid out the way that our for the benefit of our residents in the way that it's laid out. I think we're piecemealing, putting something here, and there's no real plan for how is it going to end. Thank you.
Mike, would you mind reading the question again?
Well, already turned it over.
Sorry.
I'm trying to get ready to go watch the Braves game.
I'll be quick.
Where should the city of Kings Mountain do the next phase of streetscape? What would you recommend doing differently in the next phase?
All right, thank you. We've already passed the resolution to continue moving down the pathway that Kings Mountain Forward has recommended, and that will be a joint partnership or a public-private process where Kings Mountain Forward and other downtown stakeholders, if they wish, will be involved in the procurement and selection of a new plan and a new planning consultant. Could be the same people, could be different people. We'll see what the process delivers. And the outcome of that will then be a plan, start to finish, phases, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully, it looks a lot like the part that was already done, because I don't want to tear up $1.5 million worth of what's done. But the point is, you know, we are midstream, mid-cycle. We've got new people. We've got new leadership. We have a new relationship with Kings Mountain Forward. So we're going forward with the new people, the new relationships, the new process. There'll be a new consultant. Yes, the resolution recommended that it will be Mountain Street, Railroad Avenue. If something changes, well, then we'll be flexible. So that's what I expect, is that we'll stay on the path that we already passed the resolution for.
I was excited when I read in the paper that that the next phase was going to begin on Railroad Avenue. I do hope that there is a plan for more than that, and it kind of scares me just a little bit to hear what he said. And I hope that it at least looks like Mountain Street, because they really did a good job there. It took a very, very, very long time. But I would hate for each of our streets to have a different look. I don't think that would be too wise. But the one thing that I do know is that whether it's Railroad Avenue or Battleground or Gold Street Extension, wherever, there needs to be open communication with the business owners as well as with the community. We need to know what those phases are going to be. We need to know that this part of the road will be blocked, but that business is still open. I think that as long as there's good communication, as long as the citizens know what's going on, then I think that people can accept it. No one wants their business to be closed for a long time, but I think that communication will go a very, very long ways.
This concludes the questions portion of the forum. Each candidate will now have up to 90 seconds to make a closing statement. Our random drawing determine the order of the candidates. We will begin with Mr. Wampler, to be followed by Jay Rhodes.
Thank you. I started going door to door, and I would always ask, what is the identity of this town? And the top four were, it's a small town, it's a great place to raise a family, it's a commuter town, but it's a town with Christian values. I've lived here since 2005 with my wife. She works in the school system. My daughters go to school here in Kings Mountain. They don't go to a private school. They don't go to charter schools. They go to a Kings Mountain school. I've been a police officer since 2006. I have a lot of experience as a public servant. My passion and experience, I'm ready for this town. But I will tell you one thing, running for office is brutal. People talk, there's a lot of vicious words, there's a lot of rumors spread, but I'm going to tell you one thing right now. I've only taken money from two people. I've only raised $500, and almost all of that came from my parents who are right here. I don't owe anybody any favors. I don't owe anybody anything. I don't own any land. I'm not going to make any money off this. I don't own any stock in any corporations. I'm not looking to make any money off this. I drive an F-150 Ford pickup. I'm married. I got 2 kids. I want to see Kings Mountain stay Kings Mountain. I want to thank my family for supporting me, and definitely my daughter Sloan. She was my campaign manager. She went with me all the time. But I would be honored to have your vote. So when you vote, vote Wampler, Ward 5.
I promise you 6 things that I will do if I'm elected as City Council Representative for Ward 5. I will use the gifts, the education, and the experience that I have to make wise decisions that come before me as a servant leader. Number 2, I will make decisions based on what I believe is in the best interest of our citizens, not for any personal approval or gain. Number 3, I will seek to preserve peace and understanding even in the light of difficult and controversial issues. Number 4, I will exercise due diligence on every issue that comes before me to learn, question, listen, and and study the issue at hand before making a decision. Number 5, I will take my fiduciary responsibility seriously, being prudent with the financial resources made available to me by you, the citizens. Number 6, I will continue to pray over all the decisions that need to be made, seeking God's wisdom. I've been a tireless worker to promote and improve Kings Mountain. I have sought, along with others, to make our city the best it can be. How many cities our size can boast a local hospice house, a life enrichment center, a hospital, a senior center, a library, a YMCA city partnership? Think about it. I've had the opportunity to lead, serve, and foster each of these entities, and I've been blessed to be a citizen of the city of Kings Mountain. Thank you.
I've never been good at public speaking, but I've always been good at getting things done. I am and have always been a hard worker who believes it's the little man who makes things happen. I am not only a resident, but also a 2012 graduate of Kings Mountain High School, father to Lillian, who is 7 years old and attends North Elementary in Kings Mountain. Citizens of Kings Mountain have endless concerns about where we are headed. I want to listen, understand, and help address all of these concerns for the benefit of the future of Kings Mountain. Thank you.
I'm definitely a spoiled man. In my ward, our councilman is Jimmy West. And when Jimmy was running, he knocked on the door. I did not know him. I remember my dog was jumping on him, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about my dog." And he's like, "Oh, no problem. I love dogs." And he faked that he loved my dog. Just kidding, Jimmy. But he pet that dog, and we're backyard neighbors too. But what Jimmy did, which created a desire for me to do what I'm doing now, which is to run for mayor, is Jimmy did something that is very, very rare. That is that he kept the promises that he made in the beginning. And I watched our streets and our sidewalks and things of that nature that just were not in, jiving with the rest of the neighborhood. I watched him take those into, concern, and they would get fixed very quickly. When I saw that one man could do that, I knew that two men, because of synergy, could do a whole lot more. So, thank you. And that was the inspiration to do what I'm doing. My wife on April 1st made a Facebook page, Rob Wagman for mayor. There are many people on council who thought it was an April Fool's joke, and they said he would make a great one, and then all of a sudden they disappeared because they're like, "Oh, what if it's real?" Don't worry, I snapshotted it. So, but I'm not going to call anybody out. That's not my way. Lou Holtz once said there's 3 things you should ask in every relationship. Can I trust you? Are you committed? And do you care? And I promise that you can say yes to all of those questions. I look forward to being your mayor, and I thank you for your time.
So running for office is a lot like applying for a job. And when you apply for a job, they want to know, well, what's your education, what's your experience, what's your background, what's your track record, where are you from? I don't think I can do that in 90 seconds. Hopefully this looks familiar. I spent a good bit of money sending 5,000 of them out to everybody today. So you should have one. And it discusses all of those things. There's charts and graphs, talks about a lot of things that we talked about up here tonight. What we didn't talk about is that education and experience. I've got a bachelor's degree in political science. I got a 4.0 in the political science part, so they put me in the National Collegiate Honor Society for Political Science students. I thought, oh wow, maybe I should do more with politics. I was in student government in high school. We had rioting between the black kids and the white kids, and I told the principal, I want all 1,500 kids in the auditorium, I want to talk to them. And we did. We locked the doors, sent the teachers out. But that was the last day of the rioting. I went on and got a master's degree in public administration. I've got a Series 50 securities registration as a municipal advisor. I spent 25 years advising cities on bond issues and raising money. The point of all of that is I'm trying to take all of that experience in education and then just leverage it working for you. I'll do the best I can to use everything I've got and that I've learned, try and couple that with character and wisdom and honesty, And that's the job I'm applying for, km4km.com to get a copy.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Why am I running for city council? Because I care about Kings Mountain. I care about Kings Mountain right now, and I care about Kings Mountain in the future. We have a great city, we really do, but I want to be a part of making it even better. I want to help create opportunities for all of our citizens, whether it's recreational, housing, business, the arts. We need to make sure that we take care of all of our people. Why am I running for city council? I'm running to bring my experience as an advocate, a public servant, and a forward thinker to city council at a time when our community is experiencing exciting opportunities as well as important challenges. It's no secret, we're going through a lot of changes, and you've heard that here tonight. And we need honest and committed leaders to guide us forward. Leaders that understand the issues. Someone who has a history of representing people, someone who can work with others in ways to protect the small town feel that we have while helping our city grow in a responsible way. I have those skills, and I want to represent you at the table as our future decisions are being made. Do I have all the answers? Certainly not. But I'm willing to listen. I'll listen very well, and I'm willing to learn and work so that we can move forward. I'm honest. I'll offer a different perspective, and I would appreciate your vote.
It's really great to be last, because I want to thank you all for coming here tonight to this forum. I also want to talk a little bit about, thank the Mountaineers for a Better Community for hosting this. And the turnout has been absolutely super. It really is. We know you care, and we know this is not an apathetic community. I want to tell you what, folks, when you look at the world state, you look at politics today in the national and state level, it's all about, being mad at each other. And being able to come here in a church to be able to talk to your elected officials is something that is very rare in this world. And we have that right to do that. And it's wonderful that we had this tonight. I do want to say this too. I wish 10 people were running for mayor. And I want to honor Rob Wagman for offering himself up for service. I think it's wonderful. About 2-3 years ago, I gave Lee the Spirit Award. Nobody is a better advocate for Kings Mountain than Lee Owensby. Wagman. So I want to honor him for that, because a lot of people want to talk, but a lot of people don't want to sign on the dotted line. And so, Rob, I want to honor you for that. But I really do believe that I'm not the only one that can ever be the mayor of Kings Mountain. I don't have that kind of an ego. But I tell you, it's very, very important right now to have the experience. And I've been able to get out and really do some continuing education, because I've been involved in state level organizations like North Carolina League of Municipalities, where I have learned so much from areas around the state that have the same problems as we do. So we thank you again very much. I think that's enough there. Thank you. And I appreciate it. It's been a wonderful honor to be your mayor.
Loretta and I would like to thank each of the candidates for participating in this forum. We appreciate your interest and commitment to making Kings Mountain the wonderful place that it is. Special thanks go to the forum sponsors, Taylor Law Firm, PLLC, and Point 135 Real Estate. Thanks also to Central Methodist Church, Jeff and Greg Dixon, Drew Fulton and his associates for recording and live streaming, and C19 TV for repeating the broadcast of this event at different times and dates on the channel and online on c19.tv until Election Day.
And finally, we would like to thank everyone who attended this forum, and for those who chose to watch via live stream. Thank you for being an informed voter and for learning more about our candidates and the issues that affect our community. Your vote on Tuesday, November 7th can make a difference in the future of Kings Mountain. Please cast your vote during early voting or on Tuesday, November 7th. And remember to take your ID because you need it to vote. We thank you so much for being here, and have a good night.